let's learn about color schemes in the color wheel. The first half of this tutorial is very basic and very helpful to all scrappers. The last half is very detailed and uses a lot of math for those who really want to learn how to use colors. The second half can be really helpful just to understand the knowledge of how it works and how it integrates with Photoshop Elements or your other basic programs. And so I would recommend learning it. I learned a lot writing this tutorial. I recommend running out and buying a basic color wheel. At my hobby store, I believe it was only a couple dollars. I'm sure it's probably less than $5, and so it's a great investment, and you can just keep it right by your computer. And I tend to grab mine and pick it up often just to quickly glance at it. You'll remember from back in elementary school what primary colors are. They're red, yellow, and blue, and I've got here a larger picture. And here's red, yellow, and blue on the color wheel. Red, yellow, blue, and you see that they make a triangle. You'll remember that secondary colors are between or next to those primary colors, and they're green, orange, and purple. And so here's the green, orange, and purple, and they also make a triangle, but they're in between. See the red and the blue? The purple is in between them, and the red and yellow, the orange is directly in between it, so it makes a totally different triangle, and those are called the secondary colors. And you might recall that the tertiary colors are those in between the secondary colors, and are also created by mixing secondary colors. So they are yellow orange, red purple. You can go back to the color wheel. You can see here's a red violet. Mixing the blue and the violet gives you a blue violet. Mixing a green and a yellow, green being a primary color, yellow being a secondary color, you get yellow green. And so the tertiary colors are those that mix the primary and the secondary colors. Colors coordinate well by either creating contrast or harmony. Contrasting colors are great for coordinating to make photos pop. You've heard me talk a lot about contrasting already in other tutorials. Harmony is something that's just simply pleasing to the eye. If you think about harmony in the way of singers and their voices, maybe a lot of you watch American Idol right now, and in the tryouts there's a lot of people that their voices just don't go together, and they're not pleasing to hear. Same thing with colors. Some of them just are not harmonious and do not go together. Color schemes help us to find those harmonious or contrasting colors that do work together. And you can find color schemes on the back of your color wheel. Here is a zoomed in portion of the back of the color wheel, and you can see here that the complementary color scheme are two colors directly across from each other on the color wheel. For instance, red is directly across from green, so now you know why Christmas colors work so well, because they're actually harmonious. And this is what I tend to use most for my color wheel. I'll pick it up and I might have photos with my son wearing a nice orange shirt, and I want something to coordinate that paper, and I'm going to pick it up and immediately see that blue is across from orange on the color wheel, and I'm going to go off and find me a blue paper to put behind that photo. Then you have split complementary colors, and what you do is you're going to turn the wheel. We can go back to this one where you see the full view, because we have some writing in here, but when you turn this wheel and point this arrow to the color that's your main color in your layout, for instance that orange shirt, we're going to go back to this. This is pointing to orange. And then if you follow these lines, this color blue and this color blue are going to be complementary colors. And so you'll hear me a lot referring to the rule of thirds, and this particular color scheme uses the rule of thirds. And so if you use this orange as your main color on your paper and then use these two colors as your supporting colors, your layout's going to coordinate well. Then there is the Triad color scheme, and so if my main color is orange and I'm having this point to my main color, then this color on the color wheel and this green on the color wheel are going to be complementary colors, and you could also use those. They make more of a direct triangle, whereas the split complementary colors are the colors directly on either side of the complementary color. This one is the complementary color, and these two are on the other side of it. The Triad color scheme actually makes a direct triangle. There's also two Tetrad triangle color schemes, two Tetrad color schemes. One is more square, from here to here to here, and one is more rectangular. And so some of these, it might be, because I don't have my color wheel turned appropriately, it might be pointing to the words. But let's say red was my main color, and if I wanted to pick this rectangular tetrad, this gold, green, and blue, following this line here, would be the tetrad color scheme. The same thing with this tetrad color scheme. And so I've gone through, let me catch the other color schemes in this list that I haven't already covered. An analogous color scheme. I'm going to go back actually to the other preview. An analogous color scheme are three colors directly next to it on the color wheel. So if my main color was orange, then I could use this red orange and this yellow orange. These three colors are right next to each other on the color wheel, and this would make an analogous color scheme. I could use red, red violet, and violet, and that would be an analogous color scheme. We did the split, we did the triad, we did the tetrad. A monochromatic. This example here shows the monochromatic color scheme. If my main color is orange, then I would use different shades of that orange, and here are some examples. Of course, we know we can have numerous shades using our Photoshop elements, and so these would be those monochromatic color schemes. An achromatic color scheme is using colors such as black, white, and gray. Of course, there are other color schemes out there. These are ones that you find on the color wheel. These schemes are ones we would think of maybe as what fall colors are, or spring colors, Christmas colors, Easter colors. A lot of this is developed by culture, and those are considered color schemes. There are neutral color schemes. I like to use neutrals a lot. of course, the achromatic color schemes are neutral, but there are also browns, beiges, and tans, and some of these colors create great harmony with all other colors, and so I tend to use those a lot. I like using those. I'm sorry about coughing there. Cool and warm color schemes. You'll note on the color wheel it's separated into warm colors on one side and cool colors on the other. Warm color schemes are those with the reds, oranges, yellows. We can go to the color wheel and look. And so this half of the color wheel are considered warm colors. And down here it says cool colors are those with blue suggestions to them. So the blues, the aquas, and the greens. So the ones on this side of the color wheel are going to be your cool colors. You can see there's a few more cool colors than there are warm colors. The next section is on precise color schemes, and I'm going to stop now because this particular video is getting long, and I'm going to start a second part. This is where it gets more advanced, and it's optional to go ahead and learn more here, but I would suggest learning these, so I'll see you around in part 2. Welcome to part 2 of learning the color wheel and color schemes. The first half was basic, helpful for all scrappers. This second one is much more advanced, but I would suggest that learning and understanding it really helps you to understand the color picker, and I would suggest that you take the time to really study this and learn it. It really helped me when I was writing this tutorial. Of course, you can find software programs that will help you find precise color schemes. There are some great ones out there. There's also some free color schemes out on the internet that you can grab. There are some links in the resource area of my links section. Go on out there and have fun clicking away. You'll find a lot of great fun things. There used to be a free color scheme generator on my website, but that's been taken down. But you can also calculate these color schemes manually without one of those programs, and I just suggest you really take time to study this and play with it and learn it. It's going to open up whole new worlds for you when you get into your color picker. If you'll remember from the first half of this tutorial, the complementary color scheme is directly across on the color wheel. Now you'll remember from this hue, saturation, and value tutorial that the hue numbers range from 1 to 360, and you'll remember maybe from high school that a circle is 360 degrees around. So that coordinates with the hue values. There's 360 hue values. So to find something directly across the color wheel, 360 divided in half is 180. And so you can subtract or add from the value in the hue box to get the color that's directly across on the color wheel. Here's that graphic a little bit larger. You remember from the other tutorial that this H here stands for hue, and the S stands for saturation, and the B for brightness. And so this hue will go from 1 to 160, and if you want to find the color directly across from it, this yellow has a hue of 57, and you can kind of picture on a color wheel about where 57 might be, and add or subtract 180 to it and manually type that in there, and you are going to arrive at the color directly across on the color wheel, which happens to be this bright blue. You'll see here I did 180 plus 57 is 237, so I just typed that in there and I got this bright blue, and it does coordinate with the flowers. Of course, contrast is not there, and so I went ahead and lowered the brightness to get some contrast, and you can see this is much more pleasing to the eye, having the darker blue. It's still the same hue, so it still works with the color scheme of a complementary color, but it looks much more pleasing to the eye. As always, I always say there's always more than one way, and usually 3 or 4 or 5 ways to accomplish the same task, and this is a really handy tip. If you just hit Control-I on the keyboard with the background layer as the active layer, hold down the Control key and hit Control-I, and that's going to invert that color right away, and you don't have to do any calculations. And so just grab your color picker, choose a color out of your photo, hit Control-I, and you're going to have the complementary color that will go with your photo. An analogous color scheme to obtain 2 colors on either side of the color key of the key color. Okay, you'll remember analogous. We can go back and take a look at it on the color wheel. You'll remember that analogous was 3 colors together on the color wheel. To get this, you need to just add or subtract about 20 or 30 from your value. So 57 plus 30 is 87, which gives me probably this green. I don't remember, I wrote this tutorial so long ago. And subtracting 30 would give me this peach, and in the middle is my main color. And so now I have an analogous color scheme, 3 colors close to each other on the color wheel. Split complementary color scheme, we can go back and look at that. You'll remember this triangle is split, and so directly across from the orange was the blue, but on either side of the blue would be the 2 colors that make the split. And so if you think, if you visualize that in your head, and if you remember that 180 gets you the color directly across, adding 20 to 30 on either side of that 180 is going to get you the complementary colors. So if we want to do 20 to 30 less than 180, that's going to be 150 to 160. So in this example, 180 minus 30, or 180 minus 20, is going to get 150 or 160. If you calculate that, then 57 plus the 150 is 207. 57 minus the 150 is a negative 93. Now this is where manually calculating causes us to run into problems, because there really is no negative numbers on the color wheel. What happens is you have a circle for a color wheel, and you might have that 57 about here on the color wheel, and you begin subtracting and you get up to 0, and then when you go back down the other side, they're not negative numbers. They're actually going to be 359, 358, and so on, going back down the other side. And you could work hard, and I've given you some examples here, and you can read this to actually figure that out. But that's just too much thinking for my brain, and so I'm going to show you a much easier way to do this than manually calculating. I took you through the manual calculations for a couple of them so that you would understand how they work. But let's move on now hit that Control U key and go ahead and let me see if I can find the, here it is, here's the graphic, and go ahead and bring up that color picker, and that, not the color picker, the hue and saturation slider. I'm sorry, hit Control U on that keyboard and bring up that hue and saturation slider, and it's going to come up to where that 57 is on the slider. This slider, you can imagine, then goes from 1 to 360. It's instead of in a circle, it's just in a straight line, and there's about where 57 is going to be on it. And if you would just manually type in -150, and then it's going to move that slider that many spaces, and you could add 150, and it's going to calculate that and move the slider for you. Isn't that convenient? Much, much easier. A Triad color scheme is 1/3. If you, let's go back and we can take a peek. The Triad color scheme, you'll remember, was a direct triangle, and so it's going to be 360 divided into 3 even thirds, which is 120. And so therefore, to find the 3 colors in equal distance apart in the form of a triangle, add 120 from the key color and subtract 120. So I have my yellow here, and then here is the Triad colors that go with it on either side that I manually calculated. A Tetra color scheme, you remember, was the square or the rectangle, and so I have calculated them both here. One of them's the square and one of them's the rectangle. 1/4, which would be the square of 360, is 90, and so you can therefore find the 4 colors in the square by subtracting and adding 90 to the key color, and then finding the 4th color by using 180, which is the complementary color directly across from the main color. To find the 4 colors for the rectangle Tetra color scheme, subtract and add 72 to the key color scheme, and then the 4th color is your complementary color. Monochromatic color schemes. To vary the shades and tints of colors, change the brightness or lightness values. Editing this field will add white or subtract black from the color. We can go back to this, and you will recall here is the brightness field right here, and so changing this field here, or even changing it here, is going to get a monochromatic color scheme. And you can see I just made one here with various shades or tints of the yellow. Here's a darker tint of this yellow, and here's 2 lighter tints. An achromatic color scheme, of course, is blacks and whites, and that's very easy to do. Just hit D on the keyboard to make the foreground color black and white, and then hit X to exchange the two, and then use your brightness or lightness sliders and fields to make variations of that black and white, which of course are going to be various shades of gray. And I have here black and white, and here's a gray, a lighter gray, and here's a darker gray, and so that would be an achromatic color scheme. And that ends this tutorial, and I hope you've learned a lot. Even if you don't actually use a lot of these to manually calculate these color schemes, just having the knowledge of how they work really helps when you pull up this hue and saturation box, or when you pull up the color picker. If you have any questions, please do ask in the forums, and I will certainly do my best to help you.